All right, Josh, welcome to Automate All the Things. I'm really excited to have you here.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
Yeah, so Josh, you are a product manager at Stripe. Tell us a little bit. I guess maybe we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about who Josh is, and then we'll talk a little bit about payment links and about the workflow we're going to build, and then kind of jump in and build it.
For sure. Um, I'm a product manager at Stripe, and I work on Stripe checkout and payment links. I've been on the Stripe team for the past 3 years and just love working with startups and small businesses to democratize Stripe and to help every business get started with Stripe.
Yeah, and I think that's actually I think that word democratize like a good place to contextualize payment links within checkout and invoices. Like I think Stripe has done a phenomenal job of enabling businesses to go online, right? To take payments, such an essential part of every business and especially of going online and a very difficult one to be honest. So maybe talk a little bit about Stripe broadly, right? And where links fits into that ecosystem from like you need a developer to a layman person can set it up.
Totally. At Stripe, our goal is to build payments infrastructure for the internet. And millions of companies of all sizes, from startups to Fortune 500s, use Stripe software and our APIs to accept payments, send payouts, and manage their businesses online. With payment links, our goal was to allow businesses to accept one-time payments or recurring payments by easily creating a link to an online payment page and then sharing that link. And payment links can be shared anywhere on the internet. They can be shared via an email newsletter, in social media content on Facebook and Twitter. They can be shared in support interactions or directly with customers via text message. And you could even generate a QR code to share a payment link. Our goal was to create a no-code, super easy way of getting started with Stripe so that every business can accept their first payment online.
Yeah, I love it. As someone who has gone in, I don't know if addicted is the right word, that feeling of getting paid from online is just such an amazing feeling. And my understanding until today, right, was that Stripe very developer focused, very developer friendly platform. But invoices was something that I've streamed before and showed that you can use without code. And then payment links is something different, right? So I think a lot of folks in the chat and Penny is mentioning that Stripe already makes her life infinitely easier. And I imagine that's through invoicing, right? So how about when would I use links versus something like Stripe invoices, or that more developer kind of implementation heavy Stripe that we know and already love?
Totally. Stripe will forevermore be developer centric.
Right.
And that is our priority. We want to build the highest class APIs for developers to use and get started and accept their first payments for every use case. Um, with Stripe invoicing is an amazing tool for merchants who have pre agreed upon an existing sale with a customer. And payment links is a great tool for merchants who are still in selling mode and who might not even know who their customers are.
Right.
Payment links is a really easy way to just distribute your checkout page and start accepting payments and getting a sense of, have I reached product market fit yet?
Right. So let me kind of say that back to you is that invoicing is like, hey, I did this service for you. I sold you this good. You either have that good or we have that agreement in place. I'm going to go ahead and send out that invoice. Similar, you create a customer, you put out your credit card, right? I can control how much, when it's due, things like that. Whereas links is more of, hey, I don't know who you are. I don't know if you want to buy this, but if you do, when you're ready on your kind of terms, whether that's tomorrow or 6 months from now, go ahead and buy whatever it is I'm selling, and I can just integrate that into whatever platform I want, whether it's a website or a text message. I'm a barber, really. So it's more of like, we don't need to have an agreement in place. I can just send you that link whenever you're ready. Go ahead and pay it. Right? Does that make sense? As like
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the cool thing is that like businesses may have both use cases. So
right,
we've actually seen plenty of merchants who are actually using Stripe's invoicing products and Stripe payment links for different use cases, depending on who they're selling to and what products they're selling. For example, let's say that I'm a merchant selling apparel. I might be selling, one-off t-shirts and sweatshirts via payment links. And then I might be processing bulk orders via
Right.
invoicing for like large clients that I'm selling to and customizing my goods just for them.
Totally. That makes total sense. So some examples Colleen mentioned, folks being like, hey, just pay me $5, right? I put the stream on for free. Maybe I'll drop a payment link in the description and be like, hey, if you ever want to buy me a coffee, go ahead and use this payment link. We don't have an agreement in place. You just came onto YouTube and watch it. Pre-orders is probably another example, right? So just creating this idea, like we don't know each other, but you may be interested in whatever it is I'm selling. I just need a link. So with that, I'm kind of really excited to dive in here. So again, in the chat, let me know what you're hoping we cover. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into our kind of agenda for today, what we're going to go ahead and cover. So folks, you should see that. And now, Josh, you should be good as well. There we go. Let's hide that. Okay, let's bring up our agenda. Okay, so first, we're going to do basic. Let's set up a payment link. Let's accept a payment. Let's see if we can do that in under 10 minutes or even 5 minutes, really get set up, right? And our use case going to be today is actually one that's very near dear to my heart, which is selling online courses, right? A lot of folks here, first, I got to know them through the Essential Guide to Airtable, and it's something I sold online, my first thing I ever sold online. And I got to say, setting up payment for that was a nightmare. So I'm really excited to see how quickly we can set that up. And then let's say someone buys it, right? We're going to send back that customer information back into a CRM. In our case, that's going to be Airtable, the one we have up there. And then we're going to go into more of that chunky, cool stuff, which is what if I have like 5 payment links and I want to be able to know which customer bought which payment link and really kind of do more of that heavy lifting automation to make our lives easier. Excited, Josh? Let's do it.
Let's do it. I'm pumped.
Yeah, let me know in the chat if you're excited. And yeah, okay. So a good place to start feels like Airtable dashboard. So I'm going to go into my kind of dashboard here. I'm in testing mode. We're going to stay in testing mode. So let's say, Josh, I don't know where to go. So how do I create my first payment link? Let's get something up and running. And what are kind of the prerequisites? What do I need to set up to be able to create it?
The good thing is that getting started with Stripe and generating your first payment link is super easy. All you have to have is a notion of what product you want to sell. So we'll go ahead and we'll jump into the products tab in the dashboard, and then we'll find payment links, which is right underneath products.
Got it. Okay. And just new? I already did one way before because I was testing out, but just create a new one.
Let's jump into it. Yeah, let's create a brand new payment link.
I'm a little worried we're going to end this stream too quickly. It's going to be too quick, too easy. So you got to put some friction into it. Okay, let's create a link. Okay. So
and then
okay, tell me about it.
So the great thing is that you can actually customize this link, and the first part of it that you'll customize is which product you're selling. So in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, you can go ahead and choose to sell an existing product that you've already created in Stripe, or you can add a brand new product.
Let's start from scratch. Let's start with a new product. Let's go ahead and add it. So this is essentially the line item that I'm including in my payment, right? So this is what that person is purchasing.
Exactly. It's the thing that your customers will see that you're selling to them. Awesome. And the cool thing here is that you can choose to sell a one-time product or a recurring subscription via a payment link.
Okay, got it. So let's imagine I'm creating a new course. So let's call it Essential Guide to Airtable course, right? And okay, I need an image. Let me find that. Boom. Adding a little logo here. Description, get the essential. Okay, how much should I charge? That's a good question. Chat, let me know how much would you pay for the Essential Guide to Airtable? Maybe people have to. I used to sell this for I think I made $4 a sale. It was a really bad pricing on my part, but let's say people will say $15. $15 feels reasonable, maybe a little underpriced, but it's okay. And so you're saying I could have a recurring setup.
Totally.
Right.
So for example, if you wanted to invite everyone to join let's say weekly or monthly course and give them access to that, that could be a recurring subscription that then you would charge them on a monthly basis, for example.
Right. Price description, that's totally fine. Let's say 15. We're going to keep it to one time, right? Colleen, appreciate the kind words. It was priceless. Thank you. I still would like a number. I still need to put a number. I can't put priceless here. But hopefully it is worth more than $15. That's the value people get out of it. Okay. So that's going to go ahead and create a new product in Stripe, right? So we're adding that product in. And now I can see that the kind of preview is associated to that. Is there really any kind of other things that you want to that we should know about as we're creating this checkout or this payment link?
Two quick things. First, you'll notice that you can customize the branding, and here it looks like Aron has already done so, such that like the branding is totally in line with
Right.
your company.
Right.
But all that can be customized: your logo, your brand color, your accent color. And then if we jump back into the payment links creation flow, you'll notice that we could even preview this both on desktop and on mobile.
Cool.
And the cool thing is that by default, payment links come out of the box with both Google Pay and Apple Pay enabled. And so if you ever have a customer that's purchasing on mobile, they can just one-click purchase using Google and Apple Pay.
Yeah, and what we had Sean Wang, Swix, maybe it's better known as, talk about payment links last week, and I think what really struck me is that you guys have hundreds of engineers kind of optimizing this page for conversion, right? So there's an ability to create out of the box custom payment pages with Stripe, but you could almost say that you are endlessly working on making this page easier and more friendly and more have broader reach, more accessible.
That's right. We think about conversion of this page all day, every day. And we have a whole team of engineers that is exclusively dedicated to how can we make this the highest converting checkout experience, because we know that the effort that we put in impacts millions of merchants that use Stripe every day and billions of customers.
Totally.
The one other thing that I'd call out here is we have all those customization options on the left. So we can choose to enable promotion codes if we want to, for example, sell something on sale via payment links.
Right.
We could allow customers to adjust quantity. So let's say that they wanted to be able to buy 2 or 3 courses and then share those with a friend. And then lastly, you could also collect addresses.
Right.
So some businesses may want to collect the billing address for their customers, and other businesses that are shipping physical goods may also want to collect shipping addresses as well.
So this is like almost an e-commerce, like it's almost like the payment side of, I could almost build like a little e-commerce business just with the payment links, right? So I remember during, still in the pandemic, there were people like Instagramming, I'm just gonna deliver muffins, right? I'm baking muffins, and payment was like a huge thing. It was, you would have to like Venmo people. They could have just had a Stripe payment links, collect the shipping, ship it, you moved all their processes to Airtable, and then just track the muffins that they're shipping, right? So I know it's, for me, those small use cases are really exciting, right? Because it's a business that wouldn't exist otherwise, but I'm sure you can imagine this going on a much, much larger scale.
Totally. And that's our goal, is like, you don't need to spin up a whole website to start selling things online. Now you can just generate a payment link and start sharing that payment link with all of this functionality and customization built right in. So whether you're delivering muffins, selling a course, or building a new startup, you can really begin to do so using payment links.
Okay, so let's create it. All right, we're good to go. And now we have the link. And I imagine if it's live, it's hosted. This is a test, obviously, but I can start buying things, right? So like this is good to go. And should we give it a test? Should we give it an example?
Let's go for it. Yeah.
I'm gonna do the classic. I'm gonna act like I'm a developer and I know those 4242 keys, but it's mainly just, I know from stickers on Twitter, I know that is what the test is, not because I'm a developer. Okay, let's go ho ho ho. Hopefully that works, or it'll test if I'm in Canada.
And for anyone who's joining the stream and hasn't used Stripe before, what Aron is referring to as those 4242, that's our test credit card for Stripe. And so whenever you're using Stripe in test mode before going live, you can use that test credit card number to confirm your integration works. And just as we saw from that Stripe checkout page that Aron
Yeah.
just took us through, we can now see that the payment was successful.
So how would good question. Okay, let's imagine my workflow is in Stripe, right? I'm just kind of, where do I see that has happened, right? So where can I see maybe that customer's email? Just what happens post payment?
Totally. So you can see all the details about a successful payment via Stripe, and also as obviously part of this stream, we'll go ahead and we'll
Mhm.
even take a look at how to get that information out of Stripe and into Airtable.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll be able to see that if you go into payments, you'll be able to see that successful payment that just went through.
Awesome. Yeah, we've got a bunch of work, and just truly, I think this is one of the beautiful things about Stripe is that I I don't trust many things to work, but Stripe I trust to work, right? There's, looks at risk evaluation, looks at so much information to make sure that every credit card, every payment type is accepted. And it's just one of those beautiful things that just work. So, this imagine is like, okay, well, that person just bought my course and, they've paid for it. It's charged their credit card. Uh, um, and so I guess a good kind of next step, and I'm happy. Let me know in the chat if there are any other questions around the dashboard, right? Around how do we know that payment? What what I'm more curious, what kind of next step is how do we go about integrating Stripe into our broader workflow of our company, right? So maybe we have, I don't know, a CRM, right? Whatever that I use Airtable because that's what I know and love, but maybe it's use an ERP or some service, or you just need to know, okay, this person has paid, I need to do something, right? I need to deliver a service. So how do we go about kind of going the next step, which is sending customer information elsewhere, right? So I'm happy to do it Airtable. Maybe Josh, speak to us a little bit about what kind of functionality, what are the options to be able to send information from Stripe to other tools out there, whether it's sending an email, sending to another platform, or we'll show off Airtable.
Totally. And there was even a question about sharing the payment link itself in the
Right.
chat and how that can be done. So let's talk about both.
Sure.
Part one is, first, you've generated that payment link. And what do you do with it? Well, the cool thing is that you can share that payment link anywhere on the internet. And that payment link will always be accessible to you in your dashboard. You can copy it right out of your dashboard as Aron has, and you can share that payment link in an email newsletter, on social media, directly with customers via text message or support interactions. And you can even turn your payment link into a QR code.
Right.
Colleen had mentioned the use case of, let's say that a merchant is selling at a farmer's market. Could they create a QR code to redirect customers to their payment link and then keep track of transactions coming in of the physical goods they're selling? And the answer is yes. You could totally point a QR code directly to a payment link and then just start accepting payments from that payment link.
Yeah.
And you could even generate multiple payment links. So if you're selling multiple goods at a farmer's market, just create 3 different payment links, one for each different thing you're selling, and you can start accepting payments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, to come back to your question, Aron, about all right, so once a payment has been processed, what do we do with that information? Well, of course, as you showed earlier, all that information is saved in the Stripe dashboard, and we'll create a brand new customer object so that you have the details of who purchased what. Then we can take that information out of Stripe and we can pipe that information into other tools like Airtable. And we also have an integration with Zapier. So even if you want a totally no-code way of getting started, you can get information out of the Stripe dashboard about the transaction and pipe it into another tool.
Yeah. So I know that I would say most automators and automate all the things are Stripe users, and maybe power users is the right word. So I'm going to go ahead and drop in the chat that link to your documentation. It's actually very similar to what we're going to go ahead and do in a moment, which is, you receive a webhook and then you parse it and then you send it to the CRM. So I just said the word webhook, which is my personal favorite word after maybe Airtable and automation. So that represents one of the ways, or your kind of way to communicate to other apps. So maybe for folks who are their first time on the stream, or you say, what is a webhook, and how do I go about and configure it in Stripe, which will be the starting point for Zapier or any other tool you're kind of integrating to.
Totally. So to put it simply, webhooks are automated messages that are sent from an app when something happens. And in the case of Stripe, we have webhook events that you can receive every time a transaction is completed. That way you can take the data out of Stripe about the transaction and put it into an Airtable, for example.
Right.
And we'll go through and show you exactly what that looks like step by step so that you can get the data out of Stripe, put it in another tool, and then use it.
Yeah, totally. So webhook, it sends out like an event. It sends out something like, hey, we've received a payment. If you want that information, we're going to send it to you, right? CJ, who's in the chat, loves to talk about phone number, right? So let's go ahead and set one up. So this is the starting point for the Zapier and for the Airtable integration, right? So we're going to send a webhook, send that call to say, hey, we want Stripe has a payment. You said you wanted that information. Let's go ahead and give it to you. So I went into developers. I clicked webhook, my favorite part of Stripe, I got to say. And we're going to add an endpoint, right? This is saying for what action do you want me to send that event, that information, and where, right? So let's do the endpoint URL in a moment because I have to set that up in Airtable. But what event, what kind of, there are what feels like hundreds of events, right? So what event do we want to send to those others in case of a payment link, like a successful sale?
Totally. You'll probably notice as soon as you open this field that there are tons of different events that you can send out of Stripe. The one that we're really interested in for this use case is we want to know when a transaction has completed via our payment links payment page. And so we'll go ahead and we'll use the checkout session completed webhook. And by using that webhook, we'll receive an event every time someone has made a successful purchase via a payment link.
Awesome. So there's a question from Dan. Are we going to be able to differentiate the different payment links? That's actually the last part, right? So in kind of step 3 here, once we've got the MVP integration, which is assuming one payment link for one product, we're going to go ahead and how do we upgrade that to be able to differentiate the different payment links that person has purchased. So stay till the end. What's up? Okay, so we need to then, the endpoint URL is saying, where do you want me to send this information, this event, right? In Airtable, we can go ahead and go to Airtable automations, open one, and let's go ahead and create a new automation, which is new course sale. And this is what I always say. So this is a trigger, what sets the automation in motion. We do not have a native Stripe integration. So whenever you don't have a native integration in Airtable, you can use when webhook received. Let's make this a little smaller, and it'll provide a URL. That's that CJ's way of saying that phone number, right? So let's copy Airtable's phone number or this automation's phone number. Let's go into webhooks and just copy paste that. And this is saying that is the number you need to call when someone has a checkout session completed. In our case, you can actually create like multiple events, but in Airtable, and I think with most kind of integration tools, it's best to just, it's only possible, I think, if you have one, right? So that we don't need to then parse and know. We can do that in the tool itself after the fact. So we're adding that endpoint. And that's pretty much it, right? This is saying when a payment happens, let's go ahead and kind of tell Airtable. So everything else happens in Airtable. So let's send a test webhook, right? Right, let's send a test webhook. This is telling us stop me here. I know I get excited about webhooks. Tell me if I'm saying anything that's incorrect, but this is
Go
kind
for
of like
it.
a sample, right? This is all the information it's going to send. It's going to say some metadata around the payment, data around the session itself, right? So just information that might be relevant to us. So let's send that test webhook. Let's go back to here. Let's go ahead and run that test and see how Airtable kind of perceives or understands that webhook. So we're
And
going
one
into,
thing that I would add
yeah, go
here
ahead.
is if you're a no code enthusiast and building your first Stripe payment link and selling online for the very first time, I hope that, this isn't intimidating. It's really doable. And following like these specific steps hopefully feels approachable. We're obviously excited to like take Stripe and Stripe payment links and build a ton of no code integrations, just like the one Aron is showing you today with Airtable. Um, and if there are others that you want to see us add, like please don't hesitate to reach out. And if individuals like Aron and I can support you as you're getting started with Stripe and payment links and Airtable for the first time, please give a shout. We're happy to do so.
Yeah, totally. So I'm going to drop the template. I'm going to include the link to this template, right? That has the structure. And, Josh has direct channels that you can send him feedback. Also, you can always tweet at me, which feels like the main channel for questions around automation. I'm always happy to answer. Okay, so we've received the webhook in Airtable, and now Airtable has parsed it, which says that it has the ability to say, okay, if you can use the event ID or the type or the object and the data object, right? So status has been payment method. There's a bunch of information that we're pulling in from Stripe, customer email, customer details, currency. This is a test payment, so that it's not filled out, right? Let's actually go ahead, I think, and put a customer in, right? And see the live data and what that feels like, so we can then put the right information into our Airtable base. So let me go back to that webhook. Let me go into, I should have saved that URL, payment links. Here we go. And I promise I'll let folks submit it as well in just a moment. Oops. I don't know if that's going to work. There we go. That's a properly Canadian. There we go. So this checkout complete, we've paid the session, should trigger a webhook. So if we go here, we go into webhooks, come here, we should see that it's succeeded, right? That's the one we just ran. So if I go back into Airtable, let me know in the chat if I'm going too quickly here. And I test again, I should see that information from the checkout, right? I go into data, object. This is it customer details, email, right? And so clicking through this is usually how I do this, is probably a better way, right? Kind of looking at the information that I need. So if we're looking at Airtable, well, I have a users table, which is related to a courses table. So this is what I'm selling, my course, right? And let's add the payment link. Whoops. Let's go back to Stripe checkout. Let's go back. Oh, I gotta input it again. Sorry about that. Go into products, payment links. In here, I want to say whenever someone buys this course, add their user information, their customer information in this table, and associate the course that they've purchased. And then ideally send them the course, right? We can do that from Airtable. So we'll send an email to that person to say like, hey, you've purchased the Essential Guide to Airtable. Here's the URL for your course. Go ahead and watch it on whenever you want. So the next step here, so we have our webhook, is to go ahead and create a record. So we're going to create a record in our users table. And Josh, you can ask questions whenever, feel free to pipe in. I know I'm in my side of the workflow here. I don't know how familiar you are with Airtable.
Love Airtable.
Okay.
One other thing that I also wanted to mention is that Aron is obviously demoing this in Canadian dollars as a Canadian merchant. And I just wanted to mention that Payment Links and Stripe overall actually works with over 40 countries around the world and over 135 different currencies. And so regardless of where you're located or who you want to sell to and in what currency, all of that is supported via Stripe. And as Aron showed you from the event that we piped out of Stripe and into Airtable, you can get information and data about not only who you're selling to, but where they're buying from and what currency they use to purchase, all via that event that we received from Stripe.
Yeah, totally. There's a bunch of information here. Okay, so let's create the record. So we're going to go ahead and in our users table, this one right here, go ahead and kind of fill out the fields that we want. I'm just going to fill out a few, right? But there's no, it's not a limit. You can really kind of fill out whatever you want, right? So the name, right? So let's go ahead and get the customer's name from step one. So if I go into here, where do I see customer name? So data object, customer details, metadata. Do I get the name of the customer in that first webhook?
In this case,
I get the email.
yep.
Okay, we can use email.
I think
here.
the email will be our unique identifier here.
Okay, so let's use email here. And then let's go ahead and delete this one. And let's go. We're changing up on the fly. There we go. So let's pipe in the customer email. And in the next step, we'll show how to get more additional details from that payment link. So we're going to go into the webhook, going to go into the body, into data, into object, into customer details, and then email. And I'm going to have to kind of say that back to myself. So I go into the webhook, I go into body, I go into object. Nope, it was data. If I'm not mistaken, go to data, object, customer details, email. So I'm just parsing out, right, where in that whole event, what piece do I need? Purchased at is automated. Status is going to be paid. We know that they've paid, right? That's why we're receiving this webhook. We don't need any information from here. And then the course, again, we know that this webhook comes from the Essential Guide to Airtable. So I can associate that course to this right here. So one thing, pro tip here, if you want to associate linked records, get the primary field that you want to associate, go into course and just copy paste that. And because the primary fields match, Airtable understand that it is a linked record and it is going to go ahead and create that record. So let's run the test. And if all went well, we see that that user has that we've just created the user. It was that simple, right? So I'm actually going to go ahead and drop the URL in the chat. And then CJ or whoever, go ahead and fill it out. This works. Like we've got the automation running, and then the first person to fill it out will do a quick success. And yeah, go ahead and fill out that payment. What should happen is whenever you purchase it, we should see your email. Note that it is going to be publicly visible. So both make sure it's something that is acceptable, and second, that it is not your email. Unless you want to publicly expose it, that's up to you. So Josh, while people are filling it out and testing this out, anything to kind of add before we jump into that more fun, for me anyway, of like, how do we retrieve more information around different payment links, more customer details, things like that?
Totally.
Oh, I got to turn it on. I got to turn it on. Sorry. Whoops. So if anyone filled it out, I forgot to turn it on. Number one mistake in Airtable automations.
And don't forget, one quick note is that as you're using that link that Aron shared, I just wanted to mention that there's no need to fill in your real credit card information and details. You can just use the 4242 credit card, test credit card as well, and that will allow you to complete the purchase. One other quick note is that there's a ton of additional detail, and I feel like we could probably do a whole other stream on how to get even more customer information out of Stripe. And we'll save that for another time, but for now, hopefully we'll get a really strong MVP running so that you can see yourselves using this and getting your business off the ground. And it looks like we even have 3 different individuals who went through and submitted a successful payment.
Boom. I think that's a success. I think that's got some confetti going, got the horns going. It took us 35 minutes to get this all running. And frankly, we monopolized kind of explaining everything. I think you can get this up and running in 10 minutes. So really, really impressive stuff. So yeah, I'm so excited. So, you know, this, for me, this is the most fun. Like I would have totally used this had this been available for the Essential Guide to Airtable, don't need to worry about website. Don't need, just like, hey, do people want this? Does anyone want to pay $15 or $10,000 like Colleen would have paid to buy the Essential Guide to Airtable? I don't need that much infrastructure, and this would have been perfect. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what people build, and yeah, just phenomenal product, really so far, and we're actually going to up the level here in just a moment.
Thank you. Yeah, one other quick thing to mention that I've been really excited to see is we're even seeing startups and small businesses that are testing different business models
Mm,
using payment links. So, for example, let's say that you want to test, would my customers rather um, purchase an annual subscription or a monthly subscription? You can just generate two different payment
right.
links and run an A/B test and compare like which subscription is more efficacious for my company. So just wanted to mention that like that's a super cool way of using payment links. You could even generate multiple payment links and A/B test them for the same product across different social media platforms or in different email newsletters and get a sense of like what's performing best.
Yeah,
And it's
totally.
awesome to see
Yeah,
all the test transactions still coming into this payment link
yeah.
and into Airtable as well.
So let's actually go ahead and up, like, one thing I forgot is I forgot to add the email, right? So let's go ahead and send an email, right? And then we'll do the, so let's go ahead and send the email to the person, right? So to the person that just purchased this course. So some of you might want to have to fill this out again if you want. So let's go ahead, and it was in data object customer details
Hmm.
email, right? And then
Totally.
I could say your essential guide to Airtable. And
And
then,
this is such an easy way of fulfilling all those orders that we just got.
yeah.
And we can do it all in an automated way.
So your course is here. And then I have a Airtable share link, right? Which is just my course. And this is truly what I use to create the essential guide to Airtable. So it has, the course, the YouTube URL, right, which is was an unlisted URL, and then the Airtable base if you wanted to use that kind of template that I show in that. And honestly, again, this would have been so much simpler because I control this, I can change it, right? And then there you go. So now I have a business, right? So let's update that. Let's turn it off and on again.
It's
Oh, I forgot to
amazing. And
test it. I forgot
as
to.
you're running this test, Aaron, one quick thing to mention, there was a question from Colleen in the chat about if you could add a reference tag to payment links so that you could track the source.
Mm,
This isn't something that's possible yet, but it's something that we're really excited about. And for now, the workaround is just creating different payment links, maybe one for each channel that you're going to be posting to, one for Twitter, one for
right.
Facebook, one for Instagram, etc. And then you can track exactly how many purchases you're getting from each source via the separate payment links.
Awesome. Um, So there's a question of, could you have like a base price and then an add-on price? If I'm not mistaken, the answer is that's not available either. And
It's
I know
not
people are
available
pitching
yet. Yeah.
people are pitching requests, which is a good thing. People are
Oh,
excited.
it's great. Please keep pushing us. And the exciting thing is like we're dedicating so much energy internally to already making improvements to payment links. And so we're really excited about the idea of offering a minimum purchase price and then allowing your customers to choose, like, here's how much I would like to pay for this. So that's something that will be coming. In a quite similar vein, we're even going to be opening up payment links for the donations use case for
Mm,
charities and nonprofits. So if you want to share a payment link and then allow the customer to determine, here's how much I want to pay or here's how much I want to donate, that's going to be possible as well. Not entirely possible yet, but coming soon. And if you're interested in being part of the beta launch for that, please don't hesitate to reach out and get in touch, and we'll be happy to give you early access.
awesome. Okay, so I want to get back to the question Dan asked. Dan, thank you for your patience. What if I have multiple payment links and I want to be able to differentiate which one came in, right? If we look at this webhook right here, right? There's no like, hey, this is the course that was purchased, or like embedded in this kind of workflow we've created so far is the assumption that every course sold is the essential guide to Airtable, right? So how do we go ahead and get additional information about that purchase that just happened, right? Another question was name, right? Information about what they purchased, just more information so we have the full picture around what was purchased, and then be able to differentiate the course that was purchased.
Totally. And the cool thing is all the additional data about customers is available. For example, like customer name is available in the expanded customer object. And in terms of differentiating between payment links, we have a few different ways that we could do that. We could even use a different Airtable base for each payment link,
Right.
or we could get the data about where the transaction came from and pipe that data into Airtable too.
Okay. So how would we? I'm maybe foreshadowing here, but I talked to CJ, and he said, you can get the checkout, right? So for folks who are maybe a little more technical, right, we're going to go into maybe some gray zones here. Could we go ahead and get additional information about this transaction, this checkout session, to be able to get, the course that they purchase or those line items?
Totally. Let's do it.
Okay. So if I remember correctly, this is where I'm going to need your help. And CJ, stay in the chat, stay focused, because I might need your help. So essentially, we want to go to get the event that you mentioned, right? Which is, let's just kind of search for checkout, right? So checkout session. List all checkout sessions. No, I don't think that's what we want. Here, checkout session. So this is what we have, right?
Totally. So, right, what we have today is the checkout session completed webhook.
Mm-hmm. So how do we retrieve a session?
So what we want to do is we want to first figure out what the Stripe checkout session ID is.
Right.
And that can be pulled off of the input from the previous action,
right,
which was the webhook that we received.
So this right
so we
here.
can get, yes.
Got it.
So we can get that checkout session ID, and then we can use that checkout session ID to build a URL for making a get API request to Stripe.
Okay, got it.
And then, oh, go ahead.
Where would I find the documentation around how do I structure? Is it, so this I have sessions, and then is this the session ID that so this is it right here. So this is, we want to construct this URL, which is go to the checkout, go to this session, right? This one right here. And that variable that we're going to pull from step one. So I'm going to go ahead, copy this, and this is going to be a get call. You have to go slowly with me. So go to checkout sessions, get the ID from step one, right? So this is this right here. So we in Airtable, to call an API from Airtable automation requires a script. So we're going to run a quick script. Okay. Whew.
Yeah, I want to mention before we dive into this, this part is for the no-code enthusiasts who really want to push themselves.
Yes, and this is the audience. We've got
totally. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to use that checkout session ID and construct the URL for making a GET request to the Stripe API. We're going to pass in the expand line items and expand customers parameter so that the data that we get back from the API will include the related line items that we sold in our payment link, as well as data about the customer, such as the customer's name.
Yeah, totally. So we're going to run a fetch call, which is how do you run APIs in Airtable, right? So we're going to go ahead and do a get call, right? So this right here.
And just a quick note.
Yeah, go ahead. I think we're going to need some.
I think the original ID that you copied, I think may have been the event ID.
Oh, sorry.
We're looking for the checkout session ID.
Not the ID right here. The object. No. Data. object ID right here.
That looks like it.
Okay, we'll give it a try. So, all right, CJ is on the ball. I appreciate it. You should come to every stream when
Oh,
coding.
CJ even put a step-by-step guide of how to get
Right.
that ID into the chat. Thanks, CJ. That's amazing.
So if I go back to the documentation here, copy paste this, and just kind of reconstruct this URL, right? So I want to go ahead and call that get call. This is quite a long, let's remove this, this authentication. We're going to put it in a moment. I just want the URL. So we're going to go little backticks here. I know it's not like the most, can you guys see what I'm typing or is it too, I can zoom in. Is this better? Or is that too big now? Let me know. So this is where we want to go ahead and put that session ID, right? And let's actually give it a variable first. I know it's also hard to look at someone else's code, Josh. So I'm going to go ahead and call let session ID equal input.config. So, right? And then I want, let me just console log that. Session ID. CJ, keep me honest here. There we go. Let's just test that, see what that output is. Great. So session ID is that string, right, that we want to pass into the URL. So this went from no code to code real fast, right? So we want two little backticks here so we can input like that. So we want to input into a string like that, boom. And then I want session ID right here.
And just a quick note here for all the individuals that may be giving this a try after the stream concludes. If you want hands-on support or help as you're getting started, feel free to reach out to us at the Stripe team, and we're happy to provide hands-on help and guide you through this as well. Yeah,
we're gonna remove that little URL here, and then all we actually need to, this feels like a lot of work, but all we're gonna need to do here, I think, is go ahead and pass in the authentication parameters, right? So we want to go ahead and pass in this authentication, right? So those are headers. So if I go look at the documentation here, so it's fetch. Oops, fetch. Oh, I need to make a little smaller so I can see the documentation. Apologies, folks. Can you see at this level? Is this too small? Let me know in the chat. And then I want method equal get, right here. So we're going to add a little curly brackets. Man, it must be painful to watch someone like me write code. As like someone who does this professionally. I need a comma here. And then we want to do method get. Okay, Dan, you can see, awesome. And then do we just need headers?
Content type and authorization.
Awesome. So content type. And this is always I don't know if it's always application JSON, but in this case, it's going to be this. Then the other thing we need is the authorization, which in my case, if I go to Stripe dashboard, oops, sorry about that. It is in home. Is it the secret key?
Here you're looking for the Stripe API key. Yep, those are them. You got it.
Okay, so this one right here?
Yep.
I just need the, so authorization. And do I need the bearer in front? I think I do.
You do, but you also, I think you want to use this in test mode instead of live mode.
Oh, I think I am in test mode. I'm in test mode. Right, so this should be my test API key, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to assume that's a yes. Yeah. Oh, where is the test mode key? You just refresh it.
If you go into the developers tab,
Oh, API keys. Okay, got it.
yep, then you can get your test mode API key right there.
Okay, great. We got this, folks. We got this. Boom. And then I think we're good. It's saying us we have an error. Oh, it's going to put a dot here. All right. And then I think that should be our API call. And again, we'll have and we need to let response, and then we console log it. Crossing fingers. Hope this works. Error object.
Yeah.
It says secret key required. Okay, I put in the wrong key. There we go. This looks like it should work.
I think it should be the one that starts with SK test.
Oh, okay. And maybe I put in, so if we go here.
Yep.
Oh, we didn't copy it. Okay,
that's the right one.
Okay. Boom. What do happen here? Invalid checkout session. Okay. So is this dot something? Or is it because it's a string? Let me go console log session ID. Ta-da-ta. Session ID is right here. So it says CS underscore test. Is that the right session ID? Oh, dot session ID. Okay, got it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's my fault. Okay, got it. It's good to have two folks helping me write code. Okay, great. Okay, so here in the output,
we got it.
Now we have way more information, right? In the payment types, total details, I think we have line items. We should have that somewhere as well here, right? We have amount that they've paid in cents. So there's way more information that we can then, and the one that we want, if I look here, checkout session. Okay, great. Where, CJ, can I find those actual, the expanded, where I can find the line items?
Now what we'll want to do is we'll use the expand line items and expand customers query string variables to get the expanded details about the customer and about the line item.
Okay, great. And is that in the URL parameter or right here?
Sorry, it's a little hard for me to see.
Okay, yeah, CJ's got it. So add these query string parameters. So we're going to go
great.
Expand like that. Thanks, CJ. Equal customer and expand equal line items. So again, this is more of the advanced automate all the things section. And this is just telling us now we have that information in right here. And then we have customer, we have all of that information, customer details, line items, and we even have like the essential guide to Airtable. So this is what we want to pull out. That way we can differentiate from the multiple payment links. And then last thing we need to do here, and then we're going to be done, is going to go ahead and pass. So output.set, so checkout session, and we're just going to pass in the response. So we're just going to call this checkout session. Whoops. And we're going to pass in the response. That way we can reuse that in future steps. Output set. Oh, we need to, okay, let checkout session equal, so we actually need to pass that in as a variable, not only console log it. Here we go. Whoops. Boom. Awesome.
Great.
Last step here Now we want to associate the right course. So far we've been hard coding it, but now it's a variable. So we can go into step 1, go into the output. Where was it? It was in customer details. Nope. I think line items should be here somewhere. Line items. Continue. I think it's in data. Nope, it's in object. Oh, here it is. Okay, description. Insert. Okay, testing this one last time. And now when we create that user, that final step, it should associate the right essential guide to Airtable. It just did right here. And we're done. So that's the way you differentiate. I know it took a little bit more time than we expected. So let me know in the chat if that makes sense. So you can just reuse this script. All you're going to have to do is go ahead and put in your API key right here. Expand the right information that you need for your particular kind of additional information. And then input those in the following steps in the email, wherever you want. So now you have the kind of full breadth of power that Payment Links provides. So let me know, thumbs up. I know it was a little more difficult than we expected, or for my part.
I also want to emphasize, especially to everyone tuning in, that you can do so much even without writing a line of code here. And all the second part of this live stream that we've done together is really for individuals who want like a crazy amount of power when you're using both Stripe and Airtable combined. But I actually think for many of the individuals that are tuning in today, just number one, creating a payment link in Stripe. Number two, getting the webhook events out of Stripe. And number three, piping that data right into Airtable. That's going to be already like a full featured flow.
Totally.
And I'm super excited for everyone to give it a try. I think with all the explanation that Aron and I added in, we kind of dragged it out quite a bit, but I'd actually challenge each of you. I think you can do all three of those steps in less than 5 minutes.
Totally.
So I'd encourage you to go back, watch the stream again, give it another try, and reach out to Aron and I if you need to. And for anyone who actually does want to do the second half of, building this full featured integration, that's something that we can totally support you on too. But I want you to know that like you don't need to do any of that to actually use these two products together.
We do it for fun, right? So I do want to end with what I know. There's a lot of things like you already mentioned, extra payments, right? I'm sure you have like a full-fledged, very full roadmap. So what are some of the things that folks can expect in terms of next steps here with Payment Links? And I think that's a really good place to end.
Totally. So a few of the things that we mentioned already is the ability to accept an adjustable amount from your customers. That's something we're really excited to bring to Payment Links. We're also going to be launching in the very near future the ability to customize what the success state looks like. Mm-hmm. So when a transaction has completed, what do your customers see? Where do you send them to? That's something that we're really excited to bring to Payment Links soon. A few other quick things I wanted to mention that we're working on are we're going to be adding just tons of additional features into Payment Links around shipping, taxes, more billing modes. And we're eventually also going to build an API for Payment Links as well, so that you can create Payment Links via an API if that's something that you're interested in. Overall, if you want early access to any of these features, please don't hesitate to reach out. I will be happy to give you early access to any of them. And you can feel free to reach out to me via email or via Twitter.
Awesome. Okay. Well, again, Josh, huge thanks for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Next week, we're going to have Alloy Automation come on and talk about automating e-commerce. So thanks again, Josh. Really excited. Keep us in the loop with Payment Links. And I think we'll have to have you back and show us, maybe sooner than folks expect, and truly build out even more stuff with everything you guys are going to build. So again, truly huge thanks. And thanks again for everyone who joined.
My pleasure. Thanks so much to everyone for tuning in.
Bye, y'all.